Have you ever found yourself thinking, I know I'm capable of more, but I'm not sure how to get there? Or maybe you felt a bit stuck, believing your current circumstances kind of define your potential.
Yeah, that happens.
Well, today, we're going to dive deep into a book that really challenges exactly that kind of thinking. It's David J. Schwartz's timeless classic, The Magic of Thinking Big.
Ah, a great one. Really influential.
It really is. Published way back in 1959, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
But its core message is, well, it's surprisingly simple, yet really profoundly impactful. True success isn't just about talent or luck.
Right.
It starts with the size of your belief and the breadth of your thinking.
That's the core idea.
So our mission in this deep dive is basically to pull out the most actionable, maybe surprising nuggets from its pages. Explore why it still hits home for millions of readers, decades later. And give you, our listener, some powerful tools to apply to your own life and goals.
It's a fascinating book because Schwartz, he was a professor and motivational speaker. He doesn't just tell you what to think, but really how to think differently.
Okay.
His central argument, it really boils down to this. Your level of success isn't primarily determined by, say, your intelligence or your current skills, but rather by the sheer scale of your ambitions and your belief in actually achieving them. It's about expanding your mental horizons first.
That's a crucial distinction he makes, isn't it? It's not just about trying harder, but thinking bigger.
Exactly.
So if you're truly thinking big, how does that translate into action? Especially, when challenges inevitably pop up.
Well, that's the thing. Big thinkers, as Schwartz defines them, they aren't just dreamers sitting around.
Right.
They're the ones who set genuinely higher goals. They cultivate this almost unwavering belief in their ability to achieve those goals.
Okay.
And then critically, they take consistent action, even when things get tough, even in the face of significant obstacles.
So it's belief plus action.
Absolutely. The book isn't some, abstract theory. It's meant to be a practical guide. It's packed with real-life anecdotes and tangible advice designed to help readers fundamentally shift their mindset and apply it directly, to their personal and professional lives.
Okay, so if we accept that the size of our thinking is paramount, really the key, what are the actual steps Schwartz lays out for us? How do we cultivate this powerful mindset? Where does he suggest we begin this internal shift?
He starts right at the absolute foundation with a concept he expresses very, very clearly: believe you can succeed, and you will.
Sounds simple. Almost too simple, maybe.
It does, but he backs it up with this really potent idea. He says, believe you can move a mountain, and you can. Not many people believe they can, so as a result, not many people do.
Wow. That quote is so direct. It really cuts through.
It does.
But is there a line, maybe from your perspective, between genuine belief and what some might call toxic positivity, or just, unrealistic optimism? How does Schwartz help us figure that out?
That's a really great question, and yeah, it's a common misunderstanding, I think. Schwartz isn't really advocating for blind optimism.
Okay.
He's talking about a conviction that then drives action.
Okay. Drives action.
Right. If you genuinely believe you can do something, you automatically start looking for the how. You look for solutions, for paths forward.
Right.
Toxic positivity often just kind of stops at the feeling,
Yeah, just feel good.
Exactly. Schwartz's belief is an active driving force. It's the essential precursor, really, to taking the necessary steps.
Okay, so that's the foundation.
Yeah.
Belief. Once you've got that foundational belief kind of in place, what's the next big hurdle Schwartz identifies for people? Those looking to achieve their potential. Often it's those self-imposed limitations, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
He gives it that great, almost playful name. Cure yourself of Excusitis. Sounds like a common affliction.
It absolutely is. He playfully calls it the failure disease, and honestly, we've all been infected at some point, right?
Probably, yeah.
It's those pervasive, self-limiting beliefs we fall back on, those mental roadblocks like, oh, I'm too old, or I don't have enough education, or I just don't have time, or even I'm just not smart enough. Schwartz urges us to actively stop making those excuses. Just stop.
I think we all recognize those voices, don't we, in our own heads?
For sure.
But realistically, what's the hardest excuse to overcome? Does Schwartz offer a specific strategy for, say, the really tough ones?
He doesn't really pinpoint one as the hardest, but his overarching strategy is basically to counter every single excuse with a proactive question.
Okay, like what?
Like, what can I do despite this perceived limitation? He highlights that successful people, they aren't looking for reasons to fail. They're relentlessly looking for reasons and ways to win.
So it's about flipping the script in your head.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about shifting from this passive reactive mindset to an active problem-solving one. I remember once telling myself I was like, too tired to start a new project.
Yeah.
And then I realized I spent the next hour just scrolling on my phone.
Huh?
Been there.
Definitely excusitis in action.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a reminder that the "I don't have time" excuse often just masks a lack of priority or maybe even courage.
That's a good point. Okay, so we tackle the excuses, but then another huge barrier often appears. Fear. Just plain fear.
Yep. The big one?
Schwartz pushes us to build confidence and destroy fear. He emphasizes that confidence isn't innate. It's something you build through practice, preparation, positive self-talk.
Mm.
But how exactly does action work to dismantle fear? That's the part I find interesting.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is his direct, almost clinical approach. He just states, action cures fear.
Action cures fear. Simple.
It is. He explains that fear thrives in a vacuum of inaction. When you do nothing, fear just magnifies, right? It becomes this overwhelming monster in your mind.
Okay.
But taking action, even a tiny imperfect step, directly shrinks that fear.
It's like exposure therapy
Yeah.
for your ambitions. That's a great way to put it, yeah. The physical act of moving forward, it breaks the paralysis and demonstrates to your brain, essentially, that the perceived threat isn't as big or scary as you imagined.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so belief is the foundation. We clear out the excuses. We tackle fear with action.
No.
Where do we direct this newfound momentum then?
Right.
Schwartz truly believed in the power of ambition, urging us to think big. But thinking big isn't just wishful thinking, is it? He ties it directly to setting concrete goals. How does he bridge that gap between the grand vision and, actionable planning?
Yeah, he makes it very clear that thinking big is completely intertwined with using goals to help you grow.
Okay.
It's not just about passively wishing for some grand outcome. It's about actively setting truly ambitious goals, goals that stretch you, and then vividly visualizing your desired outcomes as if they've already happened. That visualization piece is key.
The visualizing, acting as if.
Exactly. That, combined with clear life planning, helps your subconscious align with your big thinking. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, goals aren't just endpoints, are they?
No, tools.
Exactly. Incredibly powerful tools for self-evolution. They demand that you grow into the person who is actually capable of achieving them.
That's a powerful way to think about goals, not just finish lines.
Right.
Another concept he advocates is to think and dream creatively.
Right.
This means actively solving problems and spotting new opportunities by deliberately challenging traditional thinking. How does that work?
Well, it's basically a call for innovation and open-mindedness. Schwartz argues that a creative mindset allows you to see solutions where others just see dead ends, and opportunities where others see obstacles. It's about deliberately pushing past conventional wisdom, how things are always done, and being receptive to new ideas, even ones that seem a bit unconventional at first.
Asking what if.
Exactly. Asking what if, instead of just accepting this is how it's always been.
And crucially, tied to all of this, he's really big on take initiative.
Oh, yeah. Fundamental.
The idea is simple. Don't wait around for the right time or the perfect circumstances, because they might never come.
Exactly right. He reinforces that successful people are inherently action-oriented. They get started, they move forward, often without needing all the answers up front. The paradox is that often the right time only really appears after you've taken initiative.
That's interesting. Action creates the opportunity.
Pretty much. And this raises an important question for you, the listener. What is one small step, just one thing you've been putting off that you could take today? Right now, just to get started.
That's a great challenge.
Right.
It sounds like a lot of these principles really build on each other. Belief, action, goals, creativity, initiative. But what happens when, despite all that, you still hit a wall? Failure happens.
It does, and he addresses this directly with turn defeat into victory. He stresses the critical importance of learning from your failures rather than letting them define you or discourage you completely.
Right. Don't let it stop you.
Exactly. Schwartz sees every setback as basically a setup for a comeback if you adopt a resilient mindset.
So it's about the mindset again.
Always. It's about extracting lessons from the experience, figuring out what went wrong, adjusting your approach, and then getting right back in the game, not dwelling on the what-ifs or beating yourself up.
Learn and move on. Resiliently.
Precisely.
And finally, he rounds out these core concepts with think like a leader. He clarifies that leadership isn't just about having a title or a position on an org chart.
No, definitely not.
It's fundamentally a mindset.
He truly expands on the qualities that make up this leadership mindset. Things like taking full responsibility for your actions and their outcomes.
Okay.
Accountability. Yeah, accountability. Demonstrating unwavering integrity in all your dealings. And consistently encouraging and uplifting the people around you.
Building others up.
Exactly. And what's powerful here is that these aren't just traits for CEOs or managers. Anyone can cultivate a leader's mindset in their daily life. At work, sure, but also in their community, or even within their family.
That makes it very accessible. Okay, so when you actually pick up The Magic of Thinking Big, what's it like to read? You mentioned it's practical. It feels very conversational and accessible, like written clearly for the everyday reader.
Definitely.
It's full of those real-life examples you mentioned, practical action steps, and even repeatable affirmations. It feels much more motivational and practical than, say, academic or deeply philosophical.
That's a really good description. And while it's highly praised, some criticisms do acknowledge that parts of the advice can sound a bit repetitive or maybe overly simplistic to modern readers. And because the book was written in the 1950s.
Yeah, context matters.
Right. Some of the examples and cultural references might feel a bit dated. You just have to see past that sometimes.
Sure.
However, what's fascinating truly is how these minor points barely detract from its enduring value. The core message, its timeless principles and really actionable tips, they just transcend the era it was written in.
Why do you think that is?
Because it speaks to fundamental human desires, doesn't it? The desire for growth, for achievement, for overcoming limitations. Those things don't really change.
That's a great point. Now, some critics also argue that, okay, positive thinking is great, but it alone isn't sufficient.
Right.
They say hard skills and strategic planning are equally, if not more, important. So what does Schwartz's work offer that complements rather than replaces those more tangible elements? What does this all mean for you, our listener, in terms of whether this book is a good fit?
Yeah, that's fair criticism, but it's not really in either situation. Schwartz's book isn't about ignoring reality or avoiding hard work. Not at all.
Okay.
It's about building the mental infrastructure, the mindset that makes the hard work effective and makes strategic planning even possible in the first place.
Ah, the foundation again.
Exactly. So it's ideal for anyone who might lack confidence, maybe for aspiring entrepreneurs, or really for anyone who feels stuck in a comfort zone and just desperately needs that mindset shift. It resonates really strongly with readers who enjoy other self-help classics, like Think and Grow Rich, for example, because it addresses the same underlying psychological barriers to success.
Okay.
It provides that foundational belief system, that confidence that allows all your other skills in your planning to truly flourish. It unlocks them in a way.
So summing up its impact then, The Magic of Thinking Big is profoundly inspired millions of readers since 1959.
Millions.
It's become a true staple in the self-help genre. It's frequently recommended by highly successful people across, business, personal development, leadership, you name it.
Absolutely. The general consensus, I think, even acknowledging the minor criticisms, is that it's a must-read classic for anyone looking to achieve more in life. Not necessarily by working harder, although that's often involved, but fundamentally by thinking differently, by thinking bigger.
Right. It just brings us right back to that core message, doesn't it? Your success is truly only as big as your thinking.
That's the takeaway. Your success is only as big as your thinking. So let's leave our listeners with this. If your success truly is only as big as your thinking, what is one area in your life where you might be unconsciously thinking small? And maybe more importantly, what could it look like if you just dared to think just a little bit bigger starting today?